The term distributed computing describes a digital infrastructure in which a network of computers solves computational tasks. Despite being physically separated, these autonomous computers work together closely in a process where the work is divided up. How does distributed computing work? In distributed computing, a computation starts with a special problem-solving strategy. A single problem is divided up, and each part is processed by one of the computing units. Distributed applications running on all the machines in the computer network handle the operational execution. Let's take an example that will help you understand how distributed computing works. In this current example, a distributed service may employ data replication, where a service maintains multiple copies of data to permit local access at multiple locations or to increase availability when a server process may have crashed. Caching is a related concept and very common in distributed systems. We say a process has cached data if it maintains a copy of the data locally for quick access if it is needed again. A cache hit is when a request is satisfied from cached data rather than from the primary service. For example, browsers use document caching to speed up access to frequently used documents. Distributed computing system is divided into 3 subfields. 1. Cloud computing. 2. Grid computing. 3. Cluster computing. Cloud computing uses distributed computing to provide customers with highly scalable, cost-effective infrastructures and platforms. Cloud providers usually offer their resources through hosted services that can be used over the internet. A number of different service models have established themselves on the market. Grid computing is based on the idea of a supercomputer with enormous computing power. However, computing tasks are performed by many instances rather than just one. Servers and computers can thus perform different tasks independently of one another. Grid computing can access resources in a very flexible manner when performing tasks. Normally, participants will allocate specific resources to an entire project at night when the technical infrastructure tends to be less heavily used. Cluster computing cannot be clearly differentiated from cloud and grid computing. It is a more general approach and refers to all the ways in which individual computers and their computing power can be combined together in clusters. Examples of this include server clusters, clusters in big data and in cloud environments, database clusters, and application clusters. Computer networks are also increasingly being used in high-performance computing, which can solve particularly demanding computing problems. Different types of distributed computing can also be defined by looking at the system architectures and interaction models of a distributed infrastructure. Due to the complex system architectures in distributed computing, the term distributed systems is more often used. The following are some of the more commonly used architecture models in distributed computing: client-server model, peer-to-peer model, multi-layered model, multi-tier architectures, service-oriented architecture, SOA. A peer-to-peer architecture organizes interaction and communication in distributed computing in a decentralized manner. All computers, also referred to as nodes, have the same rights and perform the same tasks and functions in the network. Each computer is thus able to act as both a client and a server. One example of peer-to-peer architecture is cryptocurrency blockchains. In the next video, the following topics will be covered. What is blockchain? Elements of blockchain. How blockchain works. Tiers of blockchain technology. Benefits and limitation of blockchain. If you are looking for instructor-led training, please visit the link below to know more.